Hi, this is Liz, and welcome to my podcast, Spiritually Speaking with Liz. I'm so excited to be back, season 3, and I've got some amazing guests lined up for you. But before we start, I'm just going to ask you again to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and tick the little notification bell so you'll get notifications when I upload anything. And also on your podcast app, if you follow, and you could always leave a little review if you wanted to. Okay, so today I'm super excited. I am joined by Lisa Erickson. So Lisa is a trauma-informed energy worker, mindfulness and chakra meditation instructor and author. Her primary modality is chakra-based energy work, but she's also a certified mindfulness meditation instructor. Her speciality is women's energetics, women's subtle anatomy, and practices and tools that women can employ to heal, empower and awaken themselves. She also specialises in sexual trauma healing for both men and for women. So she's written 2 books, Chakra Empowerment for Women and The Art and Science of Meditation, How to Deepen and Personalise Your Practice. So Lisa, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Liz, so much for inviting me. I'm excited to speak with you.
Oh, I'm excited too. So I always like to ask, because I'm a bit nosy, so I always like to ask about somebody's journey, about how people came to where they are now. So what started you on your spiritual journey? When did you become aware of things? And how did you come to be a chakra specialist?
Yeah, it really started with health problems that I was having straight out of college. I was actually working in technology in New York City, was under a lot of stress, a lot of deadlines, was having headaches and stomach aches. This is 35 years ago. And, you know, the doctor, when they couldn't really find anything medically wrong, somewhat unusually for the time, suggested meditation. And quite by chance, I ended up in a chakra meditation class. Of course, that's only one form of meditation, but it really worked for me. And I sensed the energies right away. And it really started to open me up to the way I experienced the world, which I hadn't realized. A lot of it was energetic. I didn't realize how much of an empath I was, all of those kinds of things. So for many years, it was a personal spiritual path. Eventually, I started to become interested in the other side of those teachings, which is more energy medicine, and studying that on the side. And I didn't make the transition to doing this for a living until after my first daughter was born, when I actually had been studying it for a while, but I had a kind of a health crisis and really had to utilize a lot of what I'd been learning. And it really got me fascinated about women's energetics in particular. So I started making this transition, and now I've been doing this for 20 years.
Amazing. I think that's always the way, isn't it? We have to have the experience to then lead us fully down the path.
Yeah, exactly.
What I wanted for you to talk about today, because I've been lucky enough to do some workshops with you, and what I love about you is that you bring the chakras to life because they are energy, so they are alive. They're not just this flat 2D thing in a book. And so what I thought would be really nice, because a lot of my listeners are just getting into their spiritual journey, they're hearing about chakras, but they're not fully knowing how they can use them. And what I love about your work is about how you empower us to work with the chakras, how you give little meditations to follow and great visualizations. So if that's okay with you, that's where I'd like to go today, for you to sort of give us a rundown on the chakras, where they are, how they work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, speaking to what you're talking about, the different ways to access them, because I think that's what can happen is people may read about one method, they may try it out, they don't feel anything, and then they're like, oh yeah, that's not for me. But in fact, there are so many different ways to work with your energy centers, visually, through affirmations, through touch, through, you know, crystals and colors and sound. And so it's really about finding what is your access point, what really resonates for you. So that's really important. Did you want to just start with the root chakra and work up, or what feels good for you?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll give my, introductory, the way I think about our energy body is that it is this intersection between our physical body and our psyche and our spirit. And the chakras are like the major organs, like we have in our physical body, our stomach, our heart, etc. The chakras are the main organs in our energy body, and they connect to all of those layers. So each chakra or energy center in energy medicine is linked to different physical systems, our skeletal system, our stomach, our nervous system, etc. And then on the psychological level, each chakra is linked to different emotions and different emotional patterns. And then on the spiritual level, they're linked to different spiritual experiences and different spiritual vibrations. So you can kind of work with them on whatever level you like. And when we talk about holistic medicine or holistic spiritual development, that's what makes energy work so powerful.
Mhm.
Is that you are really looking at you as a whole being. A physical issue is not just a physical issue, and an emotional issue is not just an emotional issue, right? So the heart of all that is the root chakra, because it's where our subtle body links in. So there's a lot of different mappings of the chakras. And in terms of the major ones that run kind of up the center of the body, different mappings will put them between 4 and 10, but the system that most people will see is 7. So that's what I'll work with, is 7 today. And the root chakra is the base one. It's usually associated with your tailbone, your feet, the base of your body. And it is where that physical subtle body link occurs. And when that energy is strong, you feel grounded, you feel present, you feel safe in your body. And if you have a hard time feeling those things, like someone who's experienced trauma, for example, may have a hard time ever feeling safe or grounded, there's usually difficulty accessing that energy, and we're going to work with that energy a lot. So I don't know how much you want me to pause, and we can talk about questions you have at each chakra, or
I'm just hang off every word.
yeah.
But I think one of the modern day epidemics at the minute, I would say, is probably a bit of a big thing to say, is that people seem to be here all the time, as in up in their head. And so, like on phones, it's drawing you out. And people don't want to be in their body obviously through trauma, makes you want to come out of your body. But people who haven't suffered trauma still don't seem to want to be grounded. They don't want to be in, like, the base chakra. Anybody who knows about the chakras, then you hear all the time that everybody's wanting to open the third eye, everybody's wanting to open the crown and do these meditation, but nobody wants to be in the root. Nobody wants to be fully grounded, do they? Would you agree with that? Do you see a lot of that in your practice?
I see so much of it. And, there's so many layers to that. I was just reading a research study about comparing how many hours kids would spend playing outside, a decade ago even, versus now. So there isn't as much physical activity. There isn't as much sense of connection with nature and the outdoors. Everything is very much screen oriented. And yes, literally being so much in our physical eyes brings our energy up here. And then you have the other piece that you mentioned, which is, spiritually, the upper chakras, when you're really focused on those, is more where the dramatic experiences are. So people tend to want to trigger those. But honestly, there's a limit to what you can experience and what healing or growth can take place. There's a limit if these lower chakras, if the foundation of the house is not strong. So often I'm saying to someone, oh, okay, that's great. You're so intuitive. You have such beautiful mystic experiences. But you're saying to me, you have difficulty maintaining the daily container of your life, right? A job and finances. Or you're saying to me, your emotions are very erratic. You have difficulty maintaining relationships. That's lower chakra work, and no amount of intuitive insights is going to help change that. We need to work on the base. So that is really a common thing I'm working with people on.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. I read about that a lot, and you can see it to people, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's very common in the spiritual community, and there is often an intersection also for those who have experienced some sort of trauma especially in childhood, we'll develop patterns, coping mechanisms, ways of getting through. And that may have been sort of checking out from our surroundings in some way. Even if you don't consider your childhood to have been traumatic, maybe it was a difficult household in some way. We develop patterns of coping where we disconnect. And really what happens when we do that energetically, when we disconnect from our surroundings, we're often our energy's floating up off our base, off our root chakra. All of this can become very well developed, might be very well developed third eye, but that ground isn't there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can keep going to the sacral if you want, or.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this sacral chakra, there's different locations for the second and third chakra, but I like to work with the sacral really for women. It's in the pelvis. It's between the hip bones. It really corresponds to our reproductive organs, the womb space, which in women's spirituality traditions is very sacred. It's primordial creativity and birth and fluidity and feminine energy. And everyone has that, of all sexual and gender orientations and identities. We have both feminine and masculine energy. But in all of us, this chakra is the seat of that. And it's also linked to our ability to be fluid. It's linked to the water element. It's linked to sensuality and sexuality. And in terms of energy medicine, it's linked into our hormonal balance. And so this is the chakra that goes through a lot of changes as we move through life. For women in particular, in terms of menstruation, there's a cycle that goes through every month. Pregnancy, postpartum, menopause. So it can be really helpful to learn some of that in terms of the way that we age. So that's kind of the big themes around the second chakra.
So anybody that's feeling any of those or feeling that disconnect, what can you give some ideas of like a practice that they could do?
Yeah. I think the simplest way to connect initially with the chakras is sort of to experiment with visual affirmations, and then maybe sound, right? So two that we can do very easily is visual. So and physical, visual, and affirmations. So just sort of settle down, anyone that's listening or watching, and notice your tailbone and your sit bones. Like, try to bring your energy down to the base of your body and experiment with just visualizing red light here, almost like a cushion of light that you're sitting on, that your tailbone is touching. And sit with that for a while and resonate with that. If you're watching this by recording, you can pause, right, to give yourself some time with that. Right. And see, do I connect visually? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, or if you're driving, come back to it later.
Yes, good idea. Right, if you're out jogging, you can wait while you listen. Yeah. And then the other, and see if that resonates. See if, like, what is it like to pull your attention all the way down? Physically, does that resonate for you? Can you feel a warmth there? What is it like to visualize this red cushion or sphere of light? Do you resonate with the color, with the vibration? And then you can try affirmations. And the affirmations I would do, for example, for the root chakra would be, I am safe in my body. I'm fully present right now. And you can even look around and, like, notice, am I fully present? What are the colors? What are the sounds around me? That's the kind of stuff we work with the root chakra. And right there, we worked with physical, tuning into your tailbone, color with the red light, and affirmations. And you can just, those three access methods, which one really, like, give you a sense that you're shifting and connecting? And that's how you kind of figure out your access method.
Mm-hmm. It's such a simple way.
Yeah.
Of trying.
Some people are very visual. Some people cannot visualize at all, right? Some people, affirmations are fantastic. Other people, words get them too in their head, right? It's very different for each person. Yeah.
Okay. And then for the sacral, what is there that they could do for that?
Well, in my book, so you've been in my class, I do the sacral lotus is like my favorite kind of foundation practice. It's really visualizing this beautiful lotus flower in this space. And you can just do orange light there, and you can do affirmations just like we just did, kind of in the lower pelvis. But I like using this flower because we have so many complicated messages around our sexual energy. So visualizing a flower that you personally find really radiant and luminous is healing in and of itself, in terms of creating this link of this energy being beautiful and blissful and radiant. And then just imagining light emanating up from your pelvis. Affirmations I would use on that chakra are things like, I am fluid, I allow myself pleasure, I welcome my emotions are balanced, because this is the emotional chakra, things like that. I put a lot of them in the book and stuff, but those are the main ones you would focus on, is your relationship to sensuality and sexuality, your relationship to your emotions, and your relationship to pleasure.
Because that's been a really mixed message, hasn't it? From growing up, you're told that either sex is dirty, or anything that you do around sex, that there's shame, there's blame. It's so mixed, isn't it? There doesn't seem to be in many, well, particularly in the British culture, we don't talk about it. So there is that shame, blame type thing comes up, and it's so sad. I mean, some cultures do embrace it a lot more, but I think a lot of countries don't, do they? And so we're sort of brought up with this mixed emotions of, but I've got these feelings, but I shouldn't act on them, and it creates a real mix. It's muddies the water, so to speak.
Exactly. And it really complicates our relationship to our body, because at the same time, we're getting the messages, that, we all want to feel validated by others' attraction to us. And we're getting so many messages around trying to be sexy. So you're getting such complicated messages, right? Be sexy, but not too sexy, right? And so, yeah, and it really complicates our relationship to our body, which women already, we have a very complicated relationship to our bodies in so many ways. And that impacts our relationship to those lower chakras, our ability to access them and have this strong foundation. And then I work with a lot of individuals who've experienced some kind of sexual assault, whether that's abuse when they were young, or an assault later, or harassment. And that can impact your lower chakras, because you don't feel safe in your body, which is root chakra, or with your sexuality, which is second chakra, right? So then it's like you have a tree where the roots aren't deep enough, right? That's what it's like when your lower chakras aren't strong. And when a big wind comes, that tree's going to fall over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like going back to deepen those roots, getting comfortable with your body and with all the energies of those lower chakras.
Okay, so then moving up to the navel chakra, as you call it, or some people call it solar plexus.
Yeah, the third chakra, and it's really that whole belly area. And in energy medicine, it is linked to the digestive system. I like to focus on the bottom of it at the navel, which corresponds in like Chinese medicine and Chinese other traditions with the dantian, or this power center. So I like to focus there, especially for women, on focus on personal power. And that's what this is the center of: personal power, your sense of self, your sense of yourself in the world, this balance between assertiveness and receptivity. And boundaries, so huge. I don't know which workshops you did, but it works so much. Yeah, energetic boundaries, our empathic ability, and our ability to sort of create a filter where we aren't taking on others' emotions. We aren't taking responsibility for others' emotions. We aren't letting those emotions become our own emotions. All of this has to do with that navel and really important chakra. And I love, it's linked to the fire element. So I love to just cultivate the visual of a flame there, right under your belly button, inside your belly. And that's one that I work with all the time with people, that is can be very effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is, I think the fire is what a lot of us feel. So either in the anxiety states that, particularly over the last few years with what's been going on, that's kicked everybody back into that, hasn't it? But also, like you said, it's that, like the be sexy but not too sexy. It's the same with be assertive as a woman but not too assertive. Nobody likes a woman who's too assertive, so just step back, but
Yep.
then be in your own power. So again, it's that mix, isn't it, of really trying to sort of let go of those past messages. That's what my battle's been in my life, is letting go of the conditioning that we've had, and to
Yeah.
just stand in your power and say, okay, this is me, this is who I am, and this is okay.
Absolutely. And that is really partially about that strong navel chakra, that sense of self. Yeah. And it's so much about literally burning off, the imprints,
Mm.
that we've received, the mixed messages that we have received. Um, Often I like to work with the throat and navel together and, call it owning your power and voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about stepping into your power, establishing your boundaries, and then being able to communicate those, right? So that the world honors them. And it's not easy. It's definitely a journey.
Yeah, it is. It's a lifetime journey for some, for most.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the navel we work up to the heart. So tell us.
Yes, and this is usually where everyone wants to start. They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
those lower ones. Oh, that seems like a lot of
I
work.
think people can sort of associate with the heart more, maybe, because you feel
Yes.
more. We've all felt that first heartbreak, that loss of a loved one. We've all had that physical feeling, so I think it's easier for people to dial into that and understand it.
Yeah, and we're very social creatures and we all want to love and be loved. And yes, we've all felt heartbreak. We've also all felt like, if you think even right now, like someone you want to hug, a child in your life or even a pet, right? That feeling of wanting to pull them to you. Often when I'll say that to people, I'll ask, like, what do you feel? And they'll say, oh, I feel a warmth or tingle right here. Like, so often that's the heart chakra is the first place people will feel something tangible. Be like, yeah, what is that? Right? That's your heart chakra. That's this energy. And that's what this chakra is about. It's about our relationships to others, our relational sense, our ability to allow ourselves to feel loved, because some of us have a hard time allowing that. So worthiness issues, and also our ability to feel love for others, right? And those two things are in direct correspondence to each other. You know, the exercise I like to do there is called Heart Star, and it's like, for part of it, you imagine light just coming in from every direction. Sometimes people find they have a hard time receiving that, and then you switch to imagine you're emanating it out, right? And you need to practice both, right? Your ability to let it in and your ability to emanate it out unconditionally, right?
I found
Yeah.
that really interesting because that was you. I thought it would be an easy, even balance, but it wasn't. And
Mhm.
so working with that, it does take a little bit of time, but we don't realize how women, I think, particularly, no disrespect, guys, but women want to. We're doing everything for everybody because we want to, because there's an expectation for us to do that. So there is quite, again, another confusion there of the give and take, isn't there?
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to know. We're also conditioned to be people pleasers.
Mhm.
We're conditioned to believe, and there's plenty of men for whom this is true as well, but especially young girls, we are conditioned to be nice. So we can get confused. Maybe we're doing something for people all the time, but in fact, it's from this place of, well, if I don't, no one will love me, right? Or from this place of, this is what keeps me safe. I have to keep everyone around me happy. And then it's not actually a true outpouring of love. And there's also, resentment that builds up in there. Our own needs are not being met, right? And so that's where this interplay of working with boundaries and working with your ability to give and receive all is together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very complex, aren't we?
We are. Yeah. And it's easy to get bogged down. Sometimes it's very simple. And so, you're like, okay, just simplify it. Sometimes it's very complex. But that's why I like the chakras is it's creates this map that resonates for some people in terms of working with all these different layers that we do have. Yeah.
I think to me, it just makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about like I was plagued in my 20s with digestive problems.
Mm.
And then when I started addressing things, with navel chakra, that started to ease. And so I know now that's my point of pain, if you like, that if I'm stressed or whatever, that is my first point of, because I tense and just hold the navel tight, hold the stomach tight. And then obviously it stops the flow, it stops the current.
Yeah, exactly. That's classic boundary whenever someone mentions digestive issues and stomach pain, which is also what I had in my 20s. One of the things that led me to the doctor, that led me onto this path. And really, in retrospect, it was a lot about absorbing people's energy and not realizing it, being a chronic people pleaser. And because of that, kind of having my energy inside out, trying to kind of sense, what does everyone want from me all the time? Right. And then you end up taking it on and you don't have that boundary. And it's like you literally take that energy into your digestive system, right? Which has as many nerve endings as our brain, right? They often call it the second brain. We have so many nerve endings in our digestive system. So it is very interesting how physical symptoms can be a message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And moving on to the throat, a common one, I think, with people losing the voice, people
Yes.
who suffer from recurrent throat issues.
Yes. Constrictions there when they're trying to say certain things. Yeah, we feel a lot in our throat. It's a very sensitive area tissue wise. And yes, it's about our voice. It's about our ability to express ourselves in a lot of different ways and our ability to hear, because this chakra does rule the mouth, but also the ears. So it's really everything, and writing, any kind of communication. So it's about our ability to receive feedback in a constructive way and also speak, and to speak truthfully. Speak like, are you speaking just to please, or are you speaking your truth to connect? Do you use speech as a wall to kind of like keep people away, or do you actually use it to connect? Right. And that's a lot of times people if you have trauma in your background or difficult childhood, etc., you will learn to use speech to please people in order to try to stay safe, or as a wall to keep people at a distance, and then feel lonely, feel like no one knows who you are, right? And then there's what you were talking about earlier, the speaking from a place of power, learning how to just speak yourself and be okay with some people may not like it. I'll be okay if they don't, right? It's okay.
That was a hard one. I found that really hard.
Yeah.
Being brought up as a people pleaser and a good girl.
Yeah.
Then it is that difficulty of wanting to say what you want to say, but I don't want to upset them, I don't want to offend them, and like pussyfooting around everybody. Where when you should, I think also when you get into your 50s, you get a bit more like, yeah, whatever.
Well, and that's if you do menopause right. So you did menopause right, because yes, it's this great opportunity, and not that there's doing it wrong, but it is this huge opportunity to kind of just shed all those obstacles and just, no, this is it. This is me, right? My wisdom self. So, and energetically, there is a lot that happens at that time to support that. So that's wonderful. That was my experience as well. And in fact, Chakra Empowerment for Women, my first book, was published when I was 51, right? I was writing it in my late 40s. It sounds like you started this podcast. It's this whole journey into your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's, I think that I'd like to have you back at a later date about menopause and the chakras.
Oh, I'd love it. It's my favorite topic these days. So
yeah, so we'll definitely do that. Okay, so moving up to the third eye, what can you tell us about that?
Okay, well, here's the sexy one that everybody wants, right?
It's the rock star.
So many, fascinating things. And I call it the three eyes, as in the letter I, because it's associated with intuition, imagination, and insight, like personal insight when you're growing, like, oh, that was just like my mother. I have that pattern. I didn't really, you have this insight of a pattern that you have that you didn't realize. That's insight is one of them. Then, of course, imagination, this ability to visualize, dream things that never existed before, and then create them, right? And then intuition, that ability to know things that is beyond our cognitive mind, you know, and there's so many different kinds of intuition that there are, right? So that's what we develop when we develop the third eye. And I think it's important to balance all three of those. Just developing your intuition without personal insight can be very dangerous. You can become very disconnected from reality, or imagination, you know. So it's beautiful. And this is a very common meditation point, like to just visualize white light there. You can even just hold a finger there. And people will often have experiences of light here. The most important thing is that that is grounded, that you sort of are staying in your body. There are techniques for kind of traveling out of your body, but really someone shouldn't be doing anything like that till they really have that, the roots of their tree strong.
Which a lot don't. There's a lot of things about astral travel and people exactly that. They're not grounded enough to be doing it, really, are they? They've not got that understanding, I don't think, and that importance of knowing the body.
Yeah, exactly. And if someone is sort of going too far out relative to their base, what they can handle, often what we see is health problems. Or because it's like you're not quite in your body, so you're absorbing a lot of energies that your body is, you're kind of almost unboundary. There's nobody tending the house, right? Everybody's checked out, you know, or just difficulty maintaining life, you know, a job and paying the bills and stability. So that's the thing. If that's happening to someone listening to this, you know, you want to take a little break and focus on the more grounded aspects of your path and your energy. Yeah.
Okay. And then moving up to the crown.
Yeah. So this is often considered a spiritual chakra. It's really sort of half in, half out of this top back part of our head, where it's called the rear fontanel. It's one of those sections of the skull that in a baby is not fused shut yet, right? Because our brain grows so fast those first few months, it doesn't fuse shut for a while. One up here too. So the crown is here. And it often will be shown with like a lotus flower. It's connected to awakening and enlightenment, but it's also connected to meaning and purpose. So it isn't like if you don't consider yourself a spiritual or religious person, you don't have a crown chakra or your crown chakra is closed. It may express for many people more in terms of a sense of purpose, like maybe, you know, you're very into a certain cause that is your purpose in life, right? That you could have a very open crown chakra, and that's how it expresses, right? That it comes through you in this way, as opposed to meditation or spiritual experiences. And so often in traditions, some traditions, there's a lot of focus on bringing the spiritual energy up through the chakras to open the crown for meditation experiences. Then manifesting for me is a process of bringing the energy down, sort of from inspiration down to birthing something. So you can work with the upward path and the downward path. I think the key component of working with the upward path is it starts at the base. You have to be grounded there, and then you move the energy up. You don't just try to open the crown, just like the third eye. You don't just try to open it without having this sense of your whole being, your whole being.
So how does it, so I know that you're a Buddhist. So how does the chakras and the meditations, the visualizations, how does that fit in with Buddhism?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the 7 chakra system I just outlined is really more aligned with the yogic traditions of India, although there are chakra systems from all over the world, right? There's systems that came out of Reiki in Japan, and actually there's energy center systems all over the world. They don't necessarily use the word chakra because that's a Sanskrit word from ancient India. But you know, there's these energy centers, and that's what's so amazing. These core energy centers really in some form from cultures all over the world. So those teachings are not specifically Buddhist, but I do practice Tibetan Buddhism, and there is chakra systems within the branch that I study. Some branches of Buddhism really don't work with the energy body at all, and others do. And in those that do, you're connecting to that, you could say, spiritual vibration of the chakras, in terms of the connection to spiritual vibrations, and meditating with the purpose of bringing those forth.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So on a day-to-day basis, your meditation practice, do you follow strictly like the Tibetan pattern, or do you sort of scan in with yourself and think, okay, this feels a bit off today, let's do this? How does it work for you day to day?
I do both. So I have a formal Tibetan Buddhist meditation practice that is my personal practice, right? And really has to do with the path I'm on there. But a lot of the work I do with the chakras, I call it more chakra activation as opposed to meditation. So I kind of reserve the word meditation explicitly for this awakening journey, which not everyone does. Words are used in different ways. And I use activation for kind of energetic health, right? So I will realize all the time, oh, I need to activate my boundaries in this situation, or my throat chakra is blocked, or I'm feeling really constricted in my heart, and I need to have an honest conversation with this loved one. I need to open up there. Oh, I'm not grounded. I'm all up here. I'm frenetic. Too much coffee, which can do that. I need to ground, and then I'm working with my chakra activation practices. So I have two different ways I'm personally working with the chakras. And some people in my clientele may be more oriented this way, and others more spiritually, more personal growth and health on this side. Again, you can kind of work with them for whatever you need in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Now, the way I found you was, it's a long time, it's over 10 years ago, I can't remember how long, and it was about being an empath, about not being in control. I just discovered, or was thinking, I must be an empath here, and really struggling. And I did one of your empath workshops, I've forgotten what it was called now. And one of the things I'd like you to talk about, because this was a game changer for me, and that is the second skin activation.
Yes. Yeah. And the second skin is an activation tool that's in my book, Chakra Empowerment for Women, but I teach it a lot, and in sessions too, that combines the groundedness and connection to the physical body of the root chakra, and the boundaries and sort of filtering capacity of the navel chakra. And really, it's like you activate red light at your root, red light at your navel, and you imagine it's creating this additional energetic skin on top of your own skin. Our skin holds our organs in and protects our muscles, and that's what it is. It's a protective filter. This is an energetic skin that really you can learn to have as your default way of walking around in the world, where you can still sense what you need to intuitively, but you no longer take it in as your own. And even just that idea can flip someone, right? And then it takes a little practice. So I would love to hear, like, how long did it take you to feel as if you kind of changed your default way of being in the world?
It took me a while. It took me because of that people pleaser, because of that confusion. And what you just said really sort of struck a chord when you said about the navel chakra, it was operating inside out.
Yeah.
And that took a while to flip back. So I would say it took me a good couple of months with regular practice to be able to I would do it on a morning when I'd done my meditation, and then out in the day I was finding it harder to keep it going.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it was strengthening it. So the time I was fine, because I'm very visual, so I was fine activating it, visualizing it, feeling it. But then part way through the day, I would start to be feeling things again that weren't mine. So then I would have to sort of like, oh, wait a minute, just find a quiet space, just go over it again. So a little while, and then it got, I make my friends laugh with this, but then it got to the point where if I was out and I felt anybody's, that I would literally, because I would wear rings, I would literally touch a ring like it was a button, and poof, it's there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad you shared that, because that is the reality of it. It's just
Mm.
like going to the gym and trying to build up your biceps. It doesn't happen in one visit to the gym. It's this process, chakra activation. It's this process of strengthening your connection to your subtle body, your ability to shift intentionally. You got to the point where you could hit your ring and do it, right? That takes time. And that's so important, because often people will be like, oh yeah, I tried the chakras, I didn't feel anything, not for me. And
Yeah.
this is for the reality. No, stick with it and you will feel definitive shifts. It really is about practice and empowerment.
Mm.
Yeah, over time. And now it's probably your new default. I mean, for me, a same journey, and still I can get knocked out, right? I can have a day where I get triggered, where I'm tired, um, a combination of factors where I'll all of a sudden realize, oh, wow, I've dropped my boundary. I'm picking up everything. I need to recenter.
Mhm.
Second, you know? Yeah.
What tips could you give? So obviously that would be one, but
Yeah.
for the way life is going, as
Mm.
it just seems everybody's rushing more. Everybody seems busy, it's like busy, busy, busy. And what advice, what tips, what exercises could you recommend to people to make them feel more present, to bring them into that calmer space?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I want to say the lower chakras, but to make it more accessible reality, I really think connection to nature is so important.
Yeah, me too.
And those lower four chakras are linked to the elements. The root is earth, the second is water, the third is fire, the heart is air, this lower four. And it's really like just even going for a walk and not putting in AirPods and just focusing on the senses and being like, okay, I'm going to focus on earth. What does my feet feel like as I walk? Is there water in the air? Is there a body of water around? And, connect to that. What is the air like, right? Feel the heat of the sun. These are the elements, and you can, if you want, link them to those associated chakras. It can be a very powerful way of just giving yourself a quick connection point to those chakras, and also getting you connected to your body. And it just links your subtle body right in. So for anyone who's sort of like, I don't think I'm ready to try activations or meditations or affirmations, that's my starting point. Connect to your body and the elements.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, in fact, energy work.
Yeah, and it's the simplest thing to do, isn't it? It's just,
Yeah. And
it only takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes just to, I think, just you breathe again properly. For me, whenever I go in woods, then I just have like a big sigh,
yeah,
and it's just, yeah, it just releases everything as
exactly.
well as connecting.
And then you have a reference point. If you want to do more focused chakra activation work, you have a little bit of a reference point, a memory of what it feels like to be present in your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from Lisa now to Lisa, well, so how old are your twins now?
My twins are seniors in high school. They
Oh,
are 17. And my oldest one is a sophomore in college. So yes,
right. Okay. Time
how
has
it goes,
come.
right? They were probably little kids when you came to my first workshop, and they were probably making noise in the background. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not teenagers, and they're never home.
So from you now, maybe to the sophomore, to your daughter. So from Lisa now to your daughter or you at that age, what little wisdom pearls could you give, would you say, for in that age gap?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's very general. It's like, focus on finding out who you are, right? I definitely constantly want to tell all of my kids, get off your phone. Literally take breaks, right? Make sure and be in your body and
Mhm.
be in your body. And really you can't make everybody happy, and you can't make everybody like you, you know. And yes, embrace this other side of life, energy, this unseen part. Tune into it. Tune into it and embrace it, and find what tools work for you to help you connect with it.
Mhm.
There's more to life than just what we see.
Yeah, so true. That's beautiful. And do you
Yeah.
say this to your kids, or are they just like,
Oh yeah, I do. They roll their eyes a lot, but it's okay. Mostly at this point, they find it humorous. They'll send memes about me. So call me boomer, boomer new age mom. It's okay. It's all good. I believe it all gets in because, well, we all know this, right? There's certain things. It's so funny because my parents, we did a lot of visits to national parks and things like that, which I grumbled about all the time, but it totally got in anyway, right? Like I ended up growing up to love nature and prioritizing that. So everything gets in, as we know as parents, even when they complain about it.
It does, and it made me smirk to myself when you said about the three eyes. And I often now I'll say something like, "Oh my God, that's my mother."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's what happens. Yeah, we all get humbled in that way, right?
yeah, definitely. Oh, Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. You've been an amazing guest, and guys, you can see why I wanted Lisa on, and we'll definitely rearrange for you to come back for like a menopause special, please, because that would be amazing.
I
So
would love. Yeah, thank you,
great.
Liz.
I'm going to put Lisa's book in all the show notes. I will put links. Lisa never stops. I've never known somebody work as hard because you're always creating courses,
Oh,
writing blogs. You run your own private practice as well as speaking on podcasts. So you're a real advocate for all of this. So I invite you to check out all of her work. So Enlightened Energetics is her website, but again, I'll put the details below, and that's her Instagram as well as is Mommy Mystic still going?
I haven't been blogging, but it is still alive. Yes.
Right, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that's how I found you as that. So there's lots of very valuable information on there. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. I've absolutely loved it. And thank you everybody for joining us, and I'll be back again soon. Thank you. Bye.